Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with us. So today, we're exploring what is honestly a truly phenomenal period of human development, the second trimester of pregnancy. We're going to look closely at the remarkable biological shifts that take place between weeks 13 and 26. This is a period characterized by massive growth, the very first recognizable movements, and some completely fascinating internal changes that happen to protect the developing fetus.
Okay, let's dive right into this. On our agenda for this explainer, first, rapid growth. Second, first flutters. Third, protective membranes. And finally, a quick summary.
Section 1, a period of rapid growth.
So, the first 12 weeks, those were all about laying the foundation. All the major organ systems were formed. But now, the focus shifts dramatically from formation to just massive, rapid growth. To give you a sense of scale here, right at the end of the first trimester, the fetus weighs roughly 26 grams. That's, about the weight of a small bird. But by 24 weeks, deep into the second trimester, the fetus reaches an impressive 640 grams, or just over half a kilogram. This marks the absolute most rapid period of weight gain in the entire pregnancy so far. It's a huge leap. And because of this intense period of maturation, the body shape and proportions change remarkably. By the end of this trimester, the fetus looks distinctively human. Remember those tiny nail beds that formed earlier? Well, they actually grow visible nails on the fingertips now. Hair begins to grow as well. All those intricate, tiny human details are really coming to life.
Section 2, feeling the first flutters. We're shifting gears a bit here from physical growth to the incredible sensory experience of the pregnant person, because as the fetus grows, it also gets busy. Which brings up a highly relatable question, one that almost everyone wonders about. When do you actually feel the baby move? There's this completely fascinating gap in the biology between when a fetus is capable of moving and when that movement is actually strong enough to be perceived on the outside.
Now, what's really interesting here is that gap between action and feeling. Incredibly, organized embryonic behaviors, things like kicking feet, bending arms, thumb-sucking, these actually begin way back between 8 and 12 weeks. But the fetus is so small and the movements are so faint, the pregnant person feels absolutely nothing. It really isn't until we hit that 18 to 22-week window in the second trimester that the fetus is large enough and the muscles are strong enough for the movement to finally be felt. And of course, in the later weeks of pregnancy, as the fetus continues to grow, the available space in the uterus decreases. So that kind of shifts the feeling from full body tumbles to more restricted stretches and jabs. But why is there a range of 18 to 22 weeks for those first movements? Well, experience matters. In a first pregnancy, movement is typically felt much later in that window. But in subsequent pregnancies, the person already knows exactly what delicate, subtle sensations to look out for, so they often recognize the movement much earlier.
And how exactly is that initial movement described? Very often it's described as feeling almost like a butterfly. I love this quote because it just perfectly captures the sensory reality of those early 18 to 22-week movements. It's a beautiful analogy, right? It kind of softens the clinical science, reminding us that before it feels like a distinct kick, it's just this very delicate fluttering sensation inside the uterus.
Section 3, fusing the protective membranes. Now we're going to dive into some lesser-known, but absolutely vital, internal biological changes that protect the growing fetus. Originally, there are two distinct separate protective membranes surrounding the fetus. First, there's the amnion, which is the inner membrane holding the amniotic fluid and the fetus itself. Then, sitting outside of that, is the chorion. Early on, there's actual space between these two layers.
So how do they become one? Well, it all comes back to that rapid growth we discussed earlier. First, during the second trimester, the fetus, and therefore the amnion enclosing it, actually grows faster than the surrounding outer chorion. Because it's expanding so rapidly, the outer surface of the amnion is pushed outward until it comes into direct physical contact with the inner surface of the chorion. Ultimately, that pressure and contact cause these two distinct layers to completely fuse together. This process creates a brand new structure, which is defined as the amniochorionic membrane. That's a bit of a mouthful, but it's simply the single compound membrane created right in the middle of the second trimester. It's incredibly strong, holding all the amniotic fluid and the growing fetus safely inside.
So the crucial point here is that this complex biological fusion directly leads to a real-world pregnancy milestone that pretty much everyone recognizes. When people talk about their waters breaking during labor, the amniochorionic membrane, the specific single fused layer that formed back in the second trimester, is exactly what's rupturing.
Section 4. Second trimester summary. We've covered some amazing biological ground today. Let's quickly recap our 3 major takeaways. First, the second trimester is defined by rapid weight gain, with the fetus hitting roughly 640 grams by 24 weeks and looking distinctly human. Second, those delicate butterfly-like movements are finally felt by the pregnant person between 18 and 22 weeks. And third, internally, the pressure of that rapid growth literally forces the amnion and chorion layers to fuse into one single highly protective amniochorionic membrane.
Just think about how much complex development happens in a few short weeks, which leaves us with this final thought. With organs maturing, visible movement starting, and the protective amniochorionic membrane firmly sealed, how exactly does the fetus prepare for the outside world in the final third trimester? We'll leave that question hanging for you to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep that curiosity focused and ready for next time.